looks like we're live and have been for like a minute or so. So let's go ahead and get started. Basically, this is just a typical live developer help. I've already got somebody that I'm going to help. I've got their Gorm IDE container open right now. So we'll start with that project. And someone said, "You." I don't know what that means. It's a celebratory exclamation. I can't see my spelling from here. My laptop is way down there because I can't. Let's see if I can. Nah, I'm not even gonna mess with the camera. But anyway, this is a tiny little stand-up desk, and so it doesn't have room for my monitor and for my laptop. So my laptop is on a different desk, which is below me. That's why I keep looking down, because that's where the live chat is. Alright, let's get started with this project. Also, for those of you that are here, we just hit 18,000 subscribers, I think this morning or yesterday. So thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Yeah, it's crazy. It's like hard to wrap your head around that many people subscribing to your channel. So hopefully I can help some of you today with this live stream, do some coding stuff. So that's where we're going to get started. And then I'll get into the live chat here in a second. So hello to everybody that's over there, and I'll start answering some questions and stuff. But first, let's go ahead and jump into this problem and solve it together real quick. So let's go ahead and see if we can figure out how to start MongoDaemon. It's not there. There we go. Already in use. Actually, I think the command on, there we go, pkill-9-ef, kill it, and then let's start it again. Okay, alright, so with MongoDB running, we should be able to open a new terminal here, and hopefully you can see. I had to like try to crop out the URL and stuff because I don't want people going to this person's container, but yeah, hopefully you can see what I'm doing. Alright, so we'll start no daemon. Doesn't have it installed, so we'll go ahead and get that real quick. And basically this user has an app that I think is similar to Colt Steele's Yelp Camp from the Web Developer Bootcamp, which many of you are familiar with, and he wants to do multiple image uploads. So I have a YouTube video for single image upload with a service called Cloudinary, and then through my Code with Node course on Udemy, I have multiple image upload, which is what they were trying to implement, and so we're just going to help them get that working. Uh-oh. Already got a crash. Alright, so it says that it's already running, which is fine, but I prefer if it's running with no daemons, so we're going to go, what was that command? pkill-9-ef node process, and then we'll start a new one. Yep. Okay, running URL import. And I haven't seen this app before, so hopefully it's not someone trying to troll me. No, this guy's cool. I've been helping him for a couple days. Alright, cool. Imaging materials and medicine, awesome. So let's go ahead and create an account. Apparently that user's already registered. Crazy. Okay. Alright, I guess I've already registered a user with that information. So let's go figure out from the routes. Cardio sets, I think, is the one. And then it was in the create here. Yeah, so you can see upload array image 4 is uploading 4 images. And then we still have the upload single, so we're going to go ahead and get rid of that. That's what uploads a single image. And so the upload.array, that's just Multer. If you've used Multer before, it's just when the form gets submitted from the EJS file, well, in this case HTML, and it has multipart or enc type is equal to multipart / form data. So I'll show you what that looks like, so you're not just trying to imagine all these weird words. So cardio sets, new. By the way, I haven't worked on this project that I can remember, but I'm able to like find files and know where stuff is because this person is following like RESTful convention and just standard like MVC modeling. And so if you do that in your projects, it makes it a lot easier for people to help you if they're familiar with those paradigms. Okay, so here's the image. And you'll see right here, this is what I was talking about. In the opening form, we have enc type is equal to multipart / form - data. And so that's where Multer picks it up, and it knows that there's going to be like a file input, like this one right here. So type is equal to file, name is equal to images, and it accepts images, and then it has the multiple tag. So the route for this, if we go back to the routes, it's probably mounted as like / cardio sets or something. So we'll go down to the bottom here, / cardio sets, and then if we look at the routes, I think it's probably, there we go, / new. Okay, so this right here, upload array image, should be images because that's the name he gave it over in right here, name is equal to images. Alright, and so before we get involved with Cloudinary, I don't know if you can hear my cat's back there freaking out. We're going to use something called locus, and that allows us to like freeze up our code. And so we'll open up a new terminal with this location so we can install locus. I think my cat just opened the door. Oh, by the way, just to take a moment, obviously I haven't really done anything to earn it from you all yet, but I do have Superchat, so if you're interested in supporting the channel, I think Superchat is enabled, and you should be able to send me all your money. Okay, so we want to do an npm i-d. The capital D is for, it's short for dependency, and so we're doing a local dependency, dev dependency, because they're all dependencies. So it's short for dev dependency. For Locus, and Locus is a debugging tool that works really great, especially on Mac and Linux. So weird, my video is like, it's got like a 10-second lag, so I can like watch myself walk to the door. It's weird. Okay, so that seems to have worked. So now if we try to go to / cardio sets / new, of course it wants us to log in again. Okay, here we are in this form. So we'll just say test. We should be able to pick a couple files, which I think in my downloads I have a couple things here. Let's see. Yeah, just two of the same picture basically. And then description. We'll just say test1 so we can keep track of it. If we're gonna stop it in Locus, but it's helpful. So, all right, so we submit it, and you'll see up here it's spinning. Oh, yeah, I guess you can't see up there, but it's down here in the bottom left corner. It says waiting histomate, and so that indicates to us that over here we've got Locus frozen up. Now, unfortunately, the text is like a light color on a light background. I can try to change that just real quick, but I can read it, so it's not the, let's see here, mode, default, vim, emacs, emmet, terminal, language, setting, font color, profile, theme, maybe dark. Ah, but it worked. All right. Okay, so we're locked up in Emmet here on that line where I put eval, or not Emmet, sorry, locus, where I put eval require locus. And so what we can do is we can take a look at rec.files, and you can see we've got an array here, and it's got two objects inside of it. Object 1 is for the first image, and object 2 is for the second image. And so we're going to use those files to upload them to Cloudinary. So let's go back over here to the route file, and I keep exposing his API key. Sorry about that. I just have to refresh it when we're done. Okay, so the is logged in. We want to make sure that we're logged in before we bother uploading anything. Pretty sure. And then here, all right. So all this source code is from I think my old tutorial for single image upload. And so now we want to upload multiple images. So let's check out a couple things. Package JSON has multi-storage Cloudinary, which is important because that will make it to where we're not like uploading images to the public directory temporarily. Somebody's like freaking out trying to tell me theme right there. I found it. Appreciate it though. Okay, so this is good. I'm gonna, just to save time and streamline this whole thing, I'm gonna go over to VS Code and let's see, how do you bring up, okay, cool, there's that. We're gonna go surfshop / surfshop VS Codium. Amazing. I don't know why it took me so long. I used Sublime Text forever, and I was like, all right, I'm just gonna go out on a limb and just try this VS Codium thing. It makes coding so much better. Sublime's great, but especially if you're just starting out, VS Code can be a little overwhelming, but for me, it works great. All right, so what I'm trying to figure out is I have a Cloudinary set up here, and great, I'm exposing, well, I guess not my secret. Now you know my API key. Storage, folder, allowed formats, file name. Yeah, so is it really VS Codium? Oh, is it really, is it that great? Yes, it is. Okay, so let's see how far you've gotten in terms of like copying what I have, because the way I'm using it is over here in my post controller. I use controllers and then I bring the methods into the routes. I bring in Cloudinary, and when I create a post, I say file of rec.files and then rec.by.post.images.push. And so post has an images array, which you have to declare right there. And then, so the reason, yeah, rec.files already has the secure URL and the public ID on it. And so I don't know if you've gotten that far, but we'll find out. We should be able to go back and look here. So you have the file name and the path, and so the path is a temporary folder, so it doesn't look like you've got it configured to use the multi Cloudinary thing. All right. So I'm probably gonna have to like go back and forth toggling the screen sharing just so I don't expose the his credentials any more than I already have. So let me think about the best way to do this. Well, first let's go take a look at the models and take a look at cardio set. Okay, so you have images here. Clean up the formatting a little bit. Alright, so we're not using image or image ID anymore. Comment those out in case you still want them for whatever reason. And then let's try to get the formatting working a little bit here. Okay, so you have the URL, which is a string, and the public ID, which is a string. That's great. That is good. Let me pull up what I've got. So in the model, if we go look at post, you're following that part, which is good. And then, so this is the important part, configuring this. So let's go ahead and in Histomate, we'll create a new folder. We'll call it Cloudinary. And then in Cloudinary, we'll create a new file, index.js. And paste this in. Alright, so these values here have to change. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the screen sharing just for a second, the display, and you guys can just watch my face while I'm getting that sorted out. Okay, let's see here. So rename it .env. API secret index present Cloudinary API process.env Cloudinary API key, and then process Cloudinary cloud name. This stuff doesn't really have to be hidden, but it's fine. Go back over here. Cool. Copy that. Yeah, that's the same thing. Sorry, I'm trying to do this as quickly as I can. Cloudinary, cloud name. Okay, save that. Close that. So then that Cloudinary is equal to that stuff gets taken out. Save that. Alright, so I think it's okay now, probably, if I turn it back on. Okay. Now I just need to borrow some code from VS Code. So we go back to the post controller, and we want to bring in Cloudinary. So this developer is not using a controller. That's fine. They're putting all the code in the routes, and so we'll just put this here. And basically, we'll use the var keyword And then this syntax right here, if you've never seen it, is object destructuring. But basically, when you put the object brackets around the variable name, you're just saying that whatever we're requiring is going to export. It's going to give us an object that has a property that has the name Cloudinary, and so we're just going to extract it that way. And that should work in this context. So right now we're inside of routes. If we go up one directory out of routes, we're in the main directory, and then we go down into Cloudinary, and then index.js is always the default file that it looks for, so we don't have to indicate that we're looking for index.js. We just point it to the folder and it gets Cloudinary from there. And so if we save this, we go look at that, you can see we have module exports is equal to Cloudinary and then storage. And I do need to change the folder, and we'll just call this like histomate or something like that. Alright, so this is the filter and everything. Multi-storage Cloudinary, which I believe is already installed. We're using the const keyword instead of the var keyword, but that's okay. And just to double check, the multi-storage Cloudinary is there. Alright, so then the storage shouldn't matter right here. Neither should the image filter. So let's just get rid of those real quick. I'll just comment them out. And taking a look here, it just pulls in Cloudinary. I don't even think at this point you have to bring in the storage parameters, but we'll find out. Okay, so then in the down here in create, we'll go ahead and borrow this stuff. Notice this is an async function, so we'll talk about that in a second. If you've never seen async functions before, oh my god, I'm just looking down here and realizing that my face is like taking up half the page. Amateur hour. Alright, it looks kind of sloppy, but it's a little bit better. Okay, so we want to be able to test this out, obviously. So let's go down here, and we're saying make sure the user's logged in, upload up to 4 images, and then this is, we're going to start using some async code here in a second. And so in order to use async await in JavaScript, you have to make sure that the function that wraps the async await code is an actual async function. And it's as simple as putting the async keyword right there. Okay, so then we'll plug this in, and what's nice about the multi-Cloudinary storage is that as it uploads the images with upload.array, it's also connecting to Cloudinary, so it's just going straight to Cloudinary, and it's putting the images in their URLs and everything in rec.files. So then inside of a async function, when you're looping, if you want to do some async looping, you have to use this for const file, or for, it's just called a for ... of loop. So we say for const file of rec.files, and just like you would imagine, file is the name for each iteration over rec.files, which is a collection or an array. And so at this point, we're adding rec.by.post.images. Now, this of course needs to be changed to cardio set instead of post, since we're pulling it from somewhere else. And then down here, basically we're just saying rec.body.cardioset.images. It didn't exist before, but now it does. There's a property that's an object, and we're going to fill it with these other objects. Sorry, it's an array. We're going to push objects inside of it, and each one's going to have a URL and a public ID. And the reason we're doing that is because over here in the model for cardioset, that's what it looks like, right? Images is an array of objects with the URL and the public ID. Alright, so you'll see how that like pans out here in a second. Okay, so at this point we don't need the Cloudinary version 2, any of that. Fortunately, that's already done for us. And so then this rec.body cardio set image, that stuff can go. And so we got some slight formatting stuff that needs to happen here. We'll just try and clean that up a little bit so we can see it better. Okay, so then this looks like it's erroneous. It must have come from something else. Alright, and then here, now that we have async await, we don't have to use callbacks. So you normally with an error first callback, you'd say, All right, this create method is Mongoose. It's going to send an asynchronous call or query to the database, and then we're going to wait around, and whenever either an error or the result, if there is no error, comes back, we'll handle it with a callback. Well, thanks to async await, we can just say await cardio set.create rec.body.cardio set, and what comes back is the cardio set. So in order to get that, we can say var cardio set is equal to await, or if we want to be a little bit fancier, we can say const or let. Basically, const is something that's not going to be reassigned. It's constant. Once you assign that variable, it'll never get reassigned without throwing an error. And then let is something that can be reassigned. So in this case, it doesn't really matter, but we can go with const since it won't be reassigned. Okay, so we create this new cardio set, which, mind you, has these images, should have images on it. And then we flash the error message and redirect back if there's an error. So I'll show you how to handle error handling. Here in a second. All right, so assuming everything goes well, then we go ahead and redirect back to cardio set ID, and we can use something instead of doing this old concatenation, string plus string. We'll use what's called a template literal syntax. So it's really cool. Instead of using single or double quotes, we just use backticks, and then if you have a variable in there or any type of JavaScript expression that you want the result of to be concatenated to this string, you just plug in $, open bracket, curly bracket, and then whatever the expression is, and then closing bracket. And so this ID is going to get added to the end of this, and then this whole thing is a string. Okay, so that will go to the new cardio set once it's done being uploaded. But what about errors? So the simplest way to handle errors is just using a try catch. And so we'll just plug everything in here real quick. So it's really, the syntax is really simple. It's just try, and then you make a block, or you open up, curly brackets, and then catch, and then the word error inside parentheses, and then now here we have access to the error. Whoop. So I had copied the error handling a second ago, and then I copied something else. So we'll just make it ourselves. So rec.flash error. And then the error object has a message property on it, which tells us what's going wrong. And then we just do a res.redirect, and generally we can just redirect back, and that'll take us to like the new page. So that's the simplest way. Of course, if you got tons of async code, you'd want to do it differently, and I cover that in my Code with Node course, which is free on devsprout.io and on Udemy, and possibly also YouTube here in the near future. I'm thinking about uploading all those videos. Again, just to take a quick break, we do have Superchat. So if you have a question or something here, once we get to questions, feel free to use Superchat, and that'll help you get noticed a little bit easier and show your support for the channel. All right, so getting back to it, now it's time to test this stuff and see if it even works, right? And so the simplest way is after, obviously if it works, it works. But if it doesn't work and we want to see what's going wrong, we can log the cardio set there, and we can also we can log rec.files up here. All right, just a couple of quick little logs that can kind of help us see what's going on. All right, so this is telling me there's an issue with Multer. That's happening here. Let me just run back over here and figure out. Oh yeah. So this structure in my app, which I have open now with VS Code, is such that in the controller we define the methods, but then in the routes, that's where we actually invoke the methods, or we take the methods and we map them to the routes. And so here's where I have the storage, and so this is where what we are missing. So basically, after we require Cloudinary, we're back in this user's app. We're saying Multer. He already has Multer up here, so we'll get rid of that. Storage from Cloudinary. Okay, good. We can just do it that way. Again, this is that object destructuring syntax, where you just wrap the variable name, or in this case multiple names, in the curly bracket syntax. We put a comma between multiple variables. And so what this is saying is when we require the Cloudinary file, which is index.js in the Cloudinary directory, then it's going to export an object that has two properties, one called storage, one called Cloudinary. And so what we end up with are two variables that point to each of those properties from that object. And so again, if you want to look at that file, you can see module.exports is an object with two properties. And you may be wondering, well, I see the key, but where's the value? And this is newer syntax. I mean, new as of like 5 years ago, but Cloudinary : Cloudinary is what you probably used to seeing. But if the left side is the same as the right side, the key is the same as the value, then you can make it more succinct just by putting the single name. And so the same goes for storage. So we save that, go to cardio sets, and here it's really simple. We just say upload is equal to Multer, and we pass in storage. And now, just to double check, I'm going to go here. Yeah, you can see I've got is logged in and then upload images. All right, cool. So now it's testing time. Let's head over to the app and go to cardio sets new. Should take us to login. Make sure we're logged in first. Whoop. Okay. Cardio sets new. This is test 2. And just put a couple pictures on there. Call this one test 2 and submit. Fingers crossed. Moment of truth. Alright, so it's on the show page, which is good news. It may not have the capability to display the images yet. So we'll go take a look at the logs just to see what we've got here. Alright, so this right here, this array with the object is rec.files. And it has the public ID and the URL down here, which is great. That's what we wanted. That means that Multer Cloudinary storage is working. So then this object right here is the actually newly created cardio set, and it has images with the array. So everything worked perfectly. If we head over to views, cardio sets, and then show.ejs, now what we can do is we have this source cardio set.images, or .image rather. This is inside the image responsive. And so in this case, we can only display one. You could create a carousel. We're not going to get into that right now. So we're just going to say images 0.url and save it. And then we should be able to refresh this page. And there's the first image. And both the images I uploaded are the same, so there's really no sense in testing the second one. So yeah, that's it. That's for creation of multiple image upload. And if you want to figure out how to do this stuff, I have an entire course over on Udemy. It's free. It's called Code with Node, Learn by Doing. It's also free on devsprout.io. And I have some of the intro videos on YouTube already. Probably add some more in the future. All right, so that's it for helping this guy out. He still needs to get the edit stuff working, but he'll be able to do all that hopefully after having seen this being done. And if you're watching this, make sure that you as in the person that owns this app, go roll your API keys, because you don't they were definitely exposed momentarily at the beginning of the video, so hopefully some troll isn't trying to mess with your stuff, but you never know. So go roll those as soon as you get a chance. Let's head over to the live chat and just see what people are saying. I'm gonna go ahead and turn off the display. You guys can stare at my pretty face for a little bit. Close VS Code. Okay, cool. So let's catch up with the live chat. Ben, thanks for showing up. Bryce is asking me to tell my story, so I'll do that in a second. I'll try to make it as quickly as possible. So Saul is saying, why in MongoDB does my schema print out multiple times? I'd have to see a screenshot or a use Loom video of that to see what you're talking about. Where is it printing out? Yeah, so I need more details about that. Is VS Codium not great? Yes, I love it. And just for those of you that don't know, VS Codium is the open source version of VS Code. VS Code is technically open source, but it's proprietary to Microsoft, so they have tracking stuff that they put in the software, so they keep track of your usage. You know, if you don't care about that kind of thing, fine, it's whatever, but I prefer to use VS Codium, which is, they just strip the binaries of all the tracking stuff, and then you just install like the bare bones app. Has all the same functionality. It works really good. Okay. Thank you, Alexander. Appreciate that. And congratulations on finishing the course. That's awesome. Okay, Super Bowler is saying, do you submit the env file with keys to the server when you deploy? Not necessarily. If you're using, if you're like SSHing into a server file system on something like, well, just any server that you have access to with SSH, then yeah, you could create an env file and use .env in that way. But if you're using Heroku, then you would just do it through the Heroku command line or through your Heroku dashboard. But for something like DigitalOcean, you could use a .env file if you want to. Okay, do you recommend, have you ever used AWS Elastic Beanstalk to deploy Node.js apps? No, I'm not a fan of AWS. I mean, I know tons of people use them, and if you're going to scale, you do need a solution like that. But I just don't like Amazon that much. I try to avoid using Amazon stuff as often as possible. Okay, so do I recommend it? I don't personally like it. Doesn't mean it's not good. So if you have, if you use it and you like it, then there's no reason not to use it, to continue using it. So somebody's asking, is the Web Developer Bootcamp worth it to complete in 2020? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know it was made 5 years ago, and you are going to want to learn stuff like some of the stuff I covered in this video, but just a little heads up, once you finish Colt's course, you can take a course like mine. You don't have to take mine, obviously, but Code with Node is free, and it has all of that syntax, let and const and arrow functions and destructuring of objects and things like that. And that stuff you will want to get familiar with. If you go trying to get a job and you're still using the var keyword to assign variables, then the employer is going to want you to ramp up really quickly and stop doing that. So if you're still using callback functions in places where it might be a better place to use like a promise or async await with promises, then that's another kind of thing that employers would look at and be probably a little concerned about. But the content itself is good, and if you get it now, obviously don't pay full price or anything. There's always a sale going on, but it sounds like you already have it. Colt told me like a week ago that he's planning on adding new content and redoing old content. So I don't know the timeline on that. I can't make any promises, but that's what he told me. He said it was okay to tell people. So you can look forward to updated content in the future for that course. How do you monitor user activity during production? Just with a logger like Morgan or some other tool? So there's a lot of, it just depends on where you also to the next question real quick, will this video be available on YouTube? Yeah, most likely. You'll probably find it in the live stream playlist. Okay, so how do you monitor user activity during production? So it depends on like what you're trying to monitor exactly. You can get analytics about your users from something like Google Analytics, where you plug in a tag and it tells you what pages people are visiting the most and if you're making any conversions and where users are coming from, all that sort of thing. Even information like is what percentage of your users are male or female, what countries they're from, what age groups. That way, if you want to like market to those advertise to those users, you can, or keep track of existing advertising. So there's that in terms of user activity, but also like there's tools depending on which server you're using, like DigitalOcean versus Heroku, where you can monitor what's going on as well. So if you're just trying to monitor like the HTTP request, or if you're trying to monitor like, you decide what data you are wanting to monitor. But yeah, there's a lot more tools than just Morgan. I think Morgan is probably more of a like a local development tool in that respect. Yeah, so user journey, like page A to page B, you can create, there's different ways to do it, but like I said, with Google Analytics, you can create, I forget what they call them, but basically you can track like basically the path of a user. It's like if you had a landing page that you were advertising to on Google or YouTube or Facebook, and then someone went to that page, and then you wanted to see like, okay, they go to that page, do they go to checkout, do I lose them during checkout, do they go somewhere else? You can get that information from Google Analytics. But there's other tools out there too. I'm not super familiar with them because I don't use them. I'm just more on the programming side of things, but that sort of stuff is out there. What sources do you recommend to learn React? Probably the React documentation, really, unless you like really like taking tutorials and courses to learn stuff. And then there's just an insane amount of them out there for React. Everybody and their grandma has a tutorial for it. Alright, but yeah, for me, I would suggest just going to the documentation. Okay, so Bryce had asked a question, tell us your story, how you started and where you are now. Also, Super Bowler, you're welcome, and thank you. Appreciate that. Alright, so real quick, while we're waiting for a couple more questions to come in. Story. So, I'll try to give like the fast version, but I started making websites when I was like probably 13. Not coding them, but just like drag and drop, like use Photoshop to design them. And then, even Photoshop 6, I think, or Photoshop 7, whatever I used back then, had a feature where you could slice it up, and it would basically just take the image and it would slice it up into a bunch of like JPEGs, but then it would like put them all together inside of like table cells or something, and you could like put hyperlinks on them. And so that's kind of how I started. I actually, before I even did that, I used Microsoft Front Page, which is like drag and drop basically, and I did not understand HTML at all, or CSS or JavaScript or anything like that. So I did that for a while, just messing around when I was a kid, and then I got more interested in the graphics side of things with Photoshop, so I kind of like diverged and just did graphics for a while. And then I can't remember how I like got back into, I was like messing with Flash for school projects, and so I did a little Flash, which obviously is gone now, and that kind of got me back into like trying to figure out the web development side of things. And then I went to college for graphic design, and then they failed me or whatever on the like portfolio review. I forget what they called it, but basically what I was told was like they were challenging students to like try harder or whatever. I don't know, but anyway, I got pretty disheartened by that, and so I switched majors and became a film major, and so then I learned a bit about like how to make videos and stuff, and so I graduated and I got a job doing marketing for an oil and gas heavy machinery company, and I made all of their marketing materials like magazines, logos, and I ended up making their website. And so then I got back into web development a little bit, and it was basically at that point I had been doing some WordPress work. Not much, I don't think, but anyway, I used pre-made themes where I would just like take a theme and like hack it together with new graphics and then upload it. So that's what I did for them. Still didn't really know a whole lot about coding per se. And then when I left that company, I started my own little like web business, and so I just used I did the same thing with themes, but then I also started using WordPress. And so then I was like, oh, I don't really want to stay in Texas, just sitting around like doing whatever I was doing. So I went to California, and because continued doing the WordPress stuff, and I was like driving for Lyft and Uber, and I moved probably like 6 or 7 times while I was out there. It's really hard to find a place to live in the Bay Area that's like affordable and long term. It's just like constant subletting, and it's a difficult place to live out there. Very expensive because of the whole tech bubble thing. So I lived in like Berkeley and Oakland and even in San Francisco. And at one point while I was driving for Uber, or I think it was probably for Sidecar, which is a company that's similar to Uber and Lyft, I drove for all 3 of those companies. But anyway, I picked someone up who was a developer, junior developer. She had graduated from App Academy, and she was just telling me like, dude, 3 months of education, and then now, I'm making 6 figures. And so of course, me driving for Lyft and making like maybe like $80 a day or whatever, I was like, oh, that sounds pretty good. And so I was just kind of like, that was stuck in the back of my head. The next day, somebody who I picked up was telling me, we were kind of having a conversation about coding and switching careers or whatever, and she was saying, oh, well, I work for a company that does these classes, and it was General Assembly, which is a big boot camp in San Francisco. She said, you don't even have to take the full-time one. You can do part-time, and it's a lot more affordable, and you can just do it in the evenings, so you can still keep your job or whatever. So that's what I did, and that's where I met Colt Steele, the guy that made the Web Developer Bootcamp and many other courses on Udemy. He ended up teaching the rest of that class after the main teacher bowed out, and that's where I officially learned Java. Well, I didn't even really learn JavaScript there. That's where I officially learned Ruby. It was a Ruby on Rails class. And then I segued into the full-time class, which was another 3 months. So 3 months part-time, 3 months full-time. And that's where I picked up JavaScript and jQuery and Angular 1 and whatever technologies were popular at the time. And so from there, I immediately started TAing teacher's assistant role for General Assembly whenever I graduated that class. And then one of the teachers was going to South Africa to do another boot camp, and he asked if I would like to be a teacher assistant for that class. And so I interviewed for that job and was able to get it and travel out there for a few months. And so I did TA job in South Africa. And then while I was out there, I interviewed again for another boot camp back in San Francisco. Moved back to San Francisco and got that job, and that was my first like really good job, like in terms of the salary and everything. And so I worked there for like 5.5 months, and then decided to move back to Texas to be with my fiance at the time. I guess at the time she was my girlfriend, and then back to Texas, fiance, and then we got married later. In any event, to be with her and her son, and then we got married, and now we have 3 children. So that was kind of the driving force that brought me back home to my home state, which is Texas, where I am now. And at that point, I had a little bit of teaching experience. I experienced a lot of imposter syndrome in San Francisco. Difficult getting up in front of people and teaching when at the time I didn't have a whole lot of experience. So you're kind of on the line of like, you were just a student yesterday, basically, and then you're teaching students, and so you're just afraid that they're gonna like poke holes in your teaching methods, and you don't know this and whatever. So I took on some teaching roles in Dallas, and one of them ultimately ended up being a lead instructor role where I was the only instructor. So I did that for several months and taught 3 different cohorts, I think 3 different groups, and working by myself like that and having to teach every single day to a group of students really like bolstered my confidence, and I learned a lot from it, so that was good. And then at some point, Colt reached out during that time and asked me if I wanted to TA for the Web Developer Bootcamp. Of course, I said yes, because I really liked the idea of being able to work from home. And so at the time, it wasn't bringing in a ton of money. It was just a little like kind of side gig. But it blew up into something that has been really great, and something that I've been able to do full-time. So eventually I was able to stop going to in-person bootcamp jobs and just work online. And that's when I really started kicking up my YouTube channel and trying to make video content that catered to cult students. And then eventually I started DevSprout, which is my own company, which at this point is just for tutoring. I used to try to make courses and stuff, but I ended up just making all of them free. And I use that as leads to find tutoring and contract work. So right now I'm doing contract web development, like building actual websites for people. I have some clients from way back that I still work on their projects, and then I have some more recent clients with newer projects, and then I do tutoring, which if you're interested, let me know in the comments and I can direct you to that. There's probably also a link in the description, I'm not sure, but and then so tutoring, YouTube, contract work, and then the Web Developer Bootcamp and the MySQL Bootcamp. I manage the TAing of those Q&As over in on Udemy. And so that's where I am now. Yeah, it's been, so since the day that I started like really learning like Ruby coding programming. In fact, I tried back on like New Year's Eve or something of like 2013, I want to say. And then I kind of gave up because I was trying to learn on my own and it was really hard, and I like ran into errors and stuff that I couldn't figure out, and I just didn't know how to like utilize the internet properly to get help. That's when I first started trying to teach myself Ruby, and here I am 7 years later and teaching other people. Not Ruby, I don't teach that anymore, but you know, I've worked with everything from JavaScript, Ruby, Python, MySQL, MongoDB, etc. So yeah, that's where I am now. Hopefully that answered your question. And then let me just go back and check your question and make sure. Yep, that's it. All right. About the 30% CPU, I haven't checked my CPU to see how so basically this user is saying VS Codium is running constantly 30% CPU, which is significant. It would be very slow, which is a problem. So I haven't checked mine to see. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. But anyway, mine's never been that slow. Like, it doesn't slow my system down, so I haven't bothered to check. But I'm trying to figure out where the what it's called on Mac. I've used it before. Activity monitor, I think is what it's called. And then let me just check the CPU, process name. So it says VS Codium, like right now, I'm not doing anything on it, but it's not even using, it's using 0%. So I don't think it's a problem for me. So maybe you did install the wrong binaries, I'm not sure. You might mess around with that, try uninstalling it and reinstalling somewhere else. Can we develop any web app with any environment? Node.js, Ruby, .NET, or is there some web pages that can only be built with specific environment? So you're saying environment, I think the correct term would be stack, like a web stack. And so, or language or framework or whatever. So Node.js is a runtime. It's basically what we call JavaScript on the back end. Ruby is a scripting language. It's just basically the same thing, just a different language. .NET, etc. You could use any of those. So some are better for certain tasks. Like if you were gonna build a website that involves some type of like machine learning or like data science or something like science or math related, then a Python stack is probably the better tool for the job. It's just that language is geared more towards that kind of project. Does that mean you can't do it with Node or Ruby? You could, but it's probably easier with Python just because it has a larger library of tools surrounding those types of projects. But in terms of like building a web application, you can do it with any of those mentioned technologies and many more. There's a bunch of different ways to do it to get to the same result. Some are better than others. Well, my wife feeding me ham on live television. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, now I need something to drink. We were using Instacart to order food because we don't want to go to the grocery store if we don't have to. And like when the food comes, the non-perishables go into the garage, and then the perishables we try to be as careful as possible. Put them in the fridge and then wash our hands and just leave them in there for a couple hours or whatever. But I say all that to say we bought some ham, and normally we get like a little, like it's like a little quarter piece of ham. It's like literally like this big. And somehow we selected like $30 ham, which is just unbelievable. So it's like a huge, entire, just giant ham. So now we're going to be eating ham for a while. I just tried it for the first time, as you saw. It's very good. I can't wait to go eat more of that. Is it okay to mix ES5 and ES6 in the same app? It is. It's fine. And you will undoubtedly do those two things, but try to lean more towards newer syntax if you can. Challenge yourself to learn newer syntax. And this is coming from somebody who doesn't know all the newer syntax, but anytime I have an opportunity to learn it and implement it, I do. You'll thank yourself for it. ES6 is not this big scary thing. It's like its purpose, and I say ES6 because that's what people call it, but at this point we're up to like ES9 or something. But this ES6 Plus is also often what it's called. The newer ECMAScript syntax is designed to make your life easier as a JavaScript developer. It's taking a lot of things that were kind of backwards and frustrating that JavaScript wasn't really up to par on with other languages, and it's like implemented all these really cool new changes that just make it so much easier to write more efficient, better apps. Just makes it easier on the developers. So can you mix them? You can. I wouldn't as often as possible. If you have the option to do ES5 over ES6 and you're on the back end, for sure do ES6. If you're on the front end, it's going to compile out to ES5 anyway once you use a transpiler or whatever. If it's easier to write it with ES6 and then use a transpiler like Babel to get it to go to ES5, great. If that's difficult for you, then just stick with ES5 on the front end because that's what all these different browsers are using. So if you want cross-browser compatibility and you want to support like Internet Explorer or whatever, Safari, then ES5 on the front end is fine. Thank you, Gabby. Appreciate that. I'm glad my tutorials have helped you. Yeah, thank you, and hope you're staying safe out there. And everybody else that's watching, social distancing. Stay home. Seriously, if you don't have a reason to go out, don't. So I can hear my daughter crying. It's 3:30. She just woke up from her nap. She's only been asleep for an hour and a half. So you guys just chill out for a second. I'll be back in like 1 minute. I'm going to try to get her to go back to sleep. Okay. I'm back. Alright, so we're approaching an hour. I'm not seeing any new questions or comments or anything, so I'm going to go ahead and end it here. Don't forget, we have Superchat, so if you want to support the channel, you can that way. And then you can check the description if you prefer to use PayPal or something, or if you prefer not to do anything, that's also fine. And then quick question that just got asked, are you still the TA for Colt Sweat Developer Bootcamp? Yes, I'm just not on that board as often because I have other people that help me. So you'll see like Zarko and Loli on there. Lillian? They're on there a lot more than I am, and then I check on it every couple days just to make sure that everything's running smoothly. So I do kind of like oversee the boards, but I have other people helping me out as well. No problem. Alright, so we're gonna do, I'll do like 10 more minutes of questions. So if you have them, ask them now. And then I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. So again, thank you everybody for helping me get to 18,000 subscribers. Really awesome milestone. Can't wait to continue making content and see what I can do to create new tutorials and whatnot in the coming months. If you have any suggestions about new content, let me know. I can't obviously do everything that everybody asks for, but I do appreciate the input. And I have a poll right now over in the community wall for this channel. I think it's like the second post, most recent, where I talk about live streaming. So if you like this stuff, go check it out and leave your input there as well. I would greatly appreciate it. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and cut it early because it doesn't look like there's any new questions coming in, and I want to go eat some more of that ham. So thanks everybody for hanging out, and we'll catch you all next time.